Hello. All the tennis courts are closed. Right, so this is Chirk Castle Gardens, and it will give me lots to think about with my own garden. Obviously not on this grand scale, because I have got a large garden, but not this size. We're talking about just a little bit bigger than this size is my garden. So I'll have to miniaturize it all. This video is about guerrilla gardening. And it's one of the things which I'm doing as sort of like a preparation thing. I've really got into gardening, and that's mainly because I see that as a way out. I see that as probably our only way out, and going back to natural resources like cob buildings and things like that. I look into history, but from a dictionary perspective, but I also cover a lot about the Anglo-Saxons, and were the Anglo-Saxons what we understood them to be, and why is there so much of a void in history about them. But gardening I see as a way out of what is coming with all this mess. And it's such a simple way out, really, when you think about it. It's self-reliance, self-sufficiency. It's therapeutic and very good for the mind, and it's learning and teaching experiences. So it's very useful, really, to have the ability to garden. And when lockdown happened, I was living in a flat, and there were claims by the media that you weren't allowed to leave your homes and all of that fear mongering. And I didn't stay in the flat. I took my son to Chester, which is a place where my granddad used to take me. And in Chester, there's something called the Rose. It's like an medieval indoor shopping centre, basically. And with the Rose, there are all these slopes. And since they closed off and barricaded off all the kids' playgrounds, I decided I'd drive all the way to Chester and we'd go sliding on the slopes in the Rose. And that's what we did. And it was dead empty there, but there were people around. And then I bumped into this man who I started talking to. And he told me some really fascinating things about the last pandemic, which was the Black Death, and the Duke of Westminster, who's related to the Rothschilds. And I'll link to that video in the description below. But for about 4 or 5 years now, I've been doing guerrilla gardening. And my gardening is not as pretty as this, because this is just stunning and beautiful. This is what I want for my garden, but I know I can't manage it because I don't have a size for it, first of all. But yeah, it's so pretty. I've been doing guerrilla gardening now for about 5 years. I started off planting the plants in the parks, like the public parks, but that's not a good idea because the caretakers and maintenance ground workers will remove they'll remove it all as they clear up around the place. So there's no real point in planting in those sorts of manicured parks. And what I found quite local to me as well is some public land which is owned by the council. So I've actually started planting fruit trees, hazelnuts, sweet chestnut trees, all sorts of different trees, all for ensuring that there's a food source if anything does go down and I'm not able to afford, the pheasants out. On the basis that I'm not able to afford foods. And I've been doing that for 5 years, so they are starting to mature. But some of them have died. Some of them are still alive, which is good. But very few. So I was able to buy hedging, basically, is really a good way to do it, because I was able to buy a bundle of bare root hedging, such as hazelnut, for like £1 a sapling, and I bought 25 of them. I think several are still alive in this area, but some of them have recently disappeared or been chewed off, And it does look like there's a rabbit in that area. And so it's just yeah, a lot of them have started to be chewed, which are still young and I guess tasty. Now they do seem to be growing a bit closer to the ground and budding down there, but we'll have to see, because if they can't get any light this year then they'll die too. And I haven't been putting anything around them because you get these net zero people who get, you know, offended if say you don't have if you're planting aha, wow, 258 pounds. Let's have a look at it. Yeah, if you wrap it with tree kind of, what is it, that tree wrap, which is supposed to prevent animals from eating the tree stems. Well, if you do that, then the people who are net zero, they get offended because they believe that these trees should be grown by nature and not planted by someone like myself. So how about one of these in my garden, eh? Yeah. Unlikely. I'll have a parasol instead. Yeah, they get very offended if you plant the trees for yourselves, so you have to keep that sort of stuff under wraps as well, because people can be very extreme in their views, and I have had some of the trees receive arson attacks. That might be more down to teenagers, but we do tend to keep it under wraps that we've planted the trees. We just let them believe that they've grown naturally. Then there'll likely be no sort of threatening or, you know, recoil at gasping sort of frantically. What are you doing planting plants in the ground? It'll cause disease and all the trees will die, which of course they won't. But people can be quite extreme and they've been propagandized, so of course they're going to be panicked. So yeah, you need to keep that sort of stuff to yourself, and putting those sorts of wrap around the saplings may get people upset, but it may not. It might just be me panicking about their extremities. So I think I'll give it a go and see what the results of doing that are. There's no harm in trying, is there? But I must have planted in all about 150 trees and that might be fruit trees as well. Like you used to be able to get really cheap ones from Poundland for £1. I'm not spending that much money. I have probably spent about £300 doing it for only several to last. But anyway, I want to leave my mark on this world. I'm planting trees. Hello, hello, hello. What have we got here? Ah. That's your pagan god. There's quite a lot of paganistic stuff here, I have noticed. Anyway, I've forgotten what I was saying now, but basically some of them aren't surviving. Some of them are getting eaten up by the wildlife while they're young. And I do think that wildlife is being planted in this area because there was no sign of rabbits 5 years ago. And now I'm seeing burrows and rabbit droppings everywhere. So it could be that people are just releasing pets into the wild, which is a possibility, but I don't think they're going to do too well because we have, sounds nice, distracted by the bird song. But we have a fox or two in that area, so they're not going to survive for too long, I don't think. And with that in mind, trees might start growing again. But we'll have to see. So I'll take you to the Guerrilla Gardening spot at some point, just because I think it's so important to what smells of, I can smell this sort of marijuana smell. I think it's the plants though, I don't think it's someone smoking. Pretty. Yeah, I'll take you to the spot where I do. There's a few acres, several acres there, and I'm seeing a lot of people talking about prepping, and they haven't got the land. Well, you have got the land. You pay tax for local land owned by the authority, so use it. Use that land. And you know, they may be tempted to sell that land to housing proprietors and all of that, but look into the law, find out reasons why they can't build there. Maybe it's swampland, maybe there's been industry which might have harmful effects if they were to build on it. Maybe there's toxins in the ground. So whatever reasons you can find, just list them out and make sure that you get your piece of land that you pay for. You pay tax for it, so get it. Anyway, this is the end of that one. Please think about guerrilla gardening in your methods of prepping and being self-reliant. And enjoy the world. Please like, subscribe, comment and share. Thank you.